Whether you are a fresh graduate or an experienced developer, this resource is perfect for your .NET interview preparation. We will equip you with the knowledge you need to make a strong impression. We will cover 25 of the most commonly asked questions, providing clear explanations and real world examples to boost your confidence. Presented by ASP NET and SQL Academy. Let us get started. OWIN or Open Web Interface for .NET defines a standard interface between web servers and .NET applications. It is commonly used to enable self-hosting of web APIs, allowing developers to run applications independently of IIS. From body binds data from the HTTP request body, commonly used for post and put methods, while from URI bind data from the URI, often used for get and delete request. API versioning allows you to evolve your web API without breaking existing clients. This can be achieved using URL segments like /API /v1 /query strings or custom headers to differentiate between versions. Globalization in Web API involves ensuring your API responses can be localized for different languages. By using resource files and setting the current culture based on HTTP headers, Web API can serve responses in the correct language. Configuring Web API for HTTPS involves enforcing HTTPS in the Web API config.cs file, ensuring the server is set up with an SSL certificate, and diverting all traffic to use secure communication. Filters in Web API allow you to execute code at different stages of the request pipeline. They include authentication, authorization, action filters, exception filters, and result filters, which help customize the request handling processes. Content negotiation allows Web API to respond in different formats like JSON or XML based on the client's accept header or explicit attributes like producers. It helps deliver the best response format according to the client's needs. Asynchronous actions in Web API use the async and await keywords, allowing IO bound tasks to run without blocking server resources. This helps improve performance, especially when dealing with external calls like database queries or web requests. Routing in Web API is responsible for mapping HTTP request to the appropriate controller actions. It is configured in Web API.config.cs or startup.cs in ASP.core, supporting templates and parameters for flexible URL handling. Middleware in Web API is a component that handles HTTP requests and responses. It runs in the request pipeline between the client and server, often used for logging, authentication, and modifying requests or responses. A Web API controller is responsible for handling HTTP requests and performing CRUD operations. It exposes methods like get, post, put, and delete, and inherits from API controller in older versions or controller base in ASP.NET Core. The key difference between put and post is that put is idempotent, meaning repeated request will have the same effect, often used to update or create resources. Post, however, is non-idempotent and typically used for creating new resources. A Web API client sends HTTP request to the Web API. Clients can range from browsers to mobile apps or other services. Common tools for making requests include HTTP client or third-party libraries like REST Sharp. The HTTP GET attribute is used to mark a method as responding to GET request. This method is typically used for retrieving data from the server, and it can also accept query parameters for filtering and sorting. Exception handling in Web API is done using try-catch blocks within controller methods or globally via exception filters. It is important to return meaningful status codes like 500 for server errors to help clients understand the issue. OAuth is a protocol for secure authorization without exposing user credentials. It uses tokens such as access and refresh tokens to authenticate users. Web APIs can integrate OAuth through services like identity server or third-party providers such as Google or Facebook. The root attribute is used to define custom URL patterns for controller actions. It allows the use of root parameters and constraints, giving you flexibility in how requests are routed to controller methods. Web API is lightweight and stateless, designed for HTTP based services, and is perfect for RESTful APIs. WCF, on the other hand, is behavior, supports multiple protocols like SOAP, and is ideal for message based services. To handle large file uploads in Web API, use HTTP multi-part form data. In ASP.NET Core, the iForm file interface is used to stream files efficiently. You should also configure appropriate file size limits to prevent overload. Message handlers in Web API allow you to intercept and modify HTTP requests and responses by deriving from delegating handler. You can implement custom behavior like logging, caching, or authentication before the request reaches the controller. In ASP.NET Core, dependency injection is configured in the startup.cs file. Services are registered in the DI container using methods like add-scoped or add-singleton. Dependencies are then injected into controllers via constructor injection. To implement custom exception handling in Web API, you can use exception filters or middleware to catch errors globally. You can create custom exception classes for specific error scenarios and return meaningful status codes and messages to the client. The HTTP put attribute is used to update an existing resource on the server. Put requests are idempotent, meaning if you send the same request multiple times, the result remains the same. The content type header specifies the media type of the request or response body, helping the server determine how to parse the content. Common types include application bar JSON, application bar XML, and multipart slash form data. Coarse or cross origin resource sharing allows your web API to handle requests from different domains securely. In ASP.NET Core, you can use the enable course attribute or middleware to configure allowed origins, methods, and headers.